Okay, what's up, guys? This video is going to be about laceration damage. All right, it's not going to be about your Q damage. It's not going to be about anything else. It's going to be about laceration damage and how your laceration damage procs, so that no one goes into my videos. They comments, why don't you use main character because the character is better for this scenario? Why don't you use this for this for that? I literally just spent an hour and a half testing everything that everyone put in my comments so that I can know whether or not to call you an idiot or not. Disrespectfully. And everyone that said something in my comments that was like, oh, why don't you do this, was wrong. The only person that said something that was questionable is the multi-shot weapon, which that is a DPS question. That isn't a damage question. I don't care about it. I'm not gonna lie, because the thing is that DPS question is more for C6, and I care more about explaining the E damage laceration, and how it affects your damage and doing that, because that's more, the laceration damage is more important for lower constellations. If you don't have C6, it's a lot more about proccing the laceration. That is why I'm doing this. That is literally why I'm doing all this, so that people can understand how the laceration damage works, why it works, and everything. So one of the first things that I learned is that the laceration damage, right, does not skill shot, snapshot. So that means when Truffle and Filbert goes and you get your Truffle and Filbert buff, right? You're going to want to, right here, if you have the laceration and you press E with the laceration and this mark right here, this mark was applied with the skill damage on, right? With the skill damage on, this mark was applied with it. If the skill damage falls off, your damage that you're going to do is going to be, what is it called? It's going to be like you never got the skill damage buff. Why is that important? Someone in my comments said, yo, I'm using Marge, and Marge is better than my Tabitha. And the reason why is because when you're proccing, your laceration marks is directly tied to when you're proccing the skill damage bonus. Okay, when you're getting that skill damage bonus. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to build your characters like Truffle and Filbert and Tabitha. I'd say you do Truffle and Filbert because her E is a lot more consistent. You build her directly for skill damage, for skill duration and skill efficiency, because those do not scale. And so if you want to use these characters as supports, any support that is giving you buffs like Truffle and Filbert, Tabitha, build them for skill duration. You're probably gonna want about 300 skill duration so that your buffs last about 15 seconds. Okay, that's what I'm gonna tell you right now. And though duration is for your supports, duration is for your supports. Let me just put that in my notes so that you guys know. Duration is for supports. Okay, so all your supports that you are using for damage buff is better. Now the next thing that I had someone say, yo, the skill damage, the skill damage weapon, right? The skill damage weapon versus this weapon, okay? In terms of laceration, and laceration is the most important thing if you want to do damage, because you're proccing E and then you're doing this, right? This is good for your Q damage, your Q damage itself, This is good for the laceration damage, the big damage, the boom. This is for your booms. When you're proccing all your things, you're gonna want skill damage. So when you have C6, skill damage is better than this. When you have C6, skill damage is better than this. If you want to just press Q, go max skill duration, and just sit in Q, this is better because it gives the duration and the weapon damage, but you'd still have to leave to apply the weapon damage. So it's good for the duration. Okay, it also keeps your morale buff longer. Okay, that is what it's for. If you want to go a duration build where you are focusing on the damage of the actual Q itself and not worrying about laceration damage because you want to AFK, this weapon is better in that aspect. Okay, if you're doing all content that is lower level mobs and mobs that you do not need a lot of damage to kill, you could kill with like 20k damage, then albeit this weapon is better because it allows you to have more uptime. Now that is out of the way, Tabitha gives more damage than Marge. Marge is attack percent. The 90% attack percent is about a 10% damage boost at 200k damage. So you go from 200k to 220 with Marge. Okay, that was with my stats and my things. This will change. Okay, skill damage, 75% skill damage is about 50k damage. Okay, so that was with Truffle and Filbert. So we could just do some basic math, some napkin math, and we can see Tabitha's boost.
Are we going on an adventure today?
Her boost is 44%. So it's somewhere in the middle. So Tabitha is worse than Filbert. But if you built Tabitha with duration and Filbert with duration, both of those max duration, you will have a high amount of skill uptime. And then you will be doing a lot more damage. Now the next thing that I have to say is with Tabitha and the character, right? Tabitha and Truffle and Filbert, I hit about 300 something K from 200,000 damage. So that 125% skill damage boost was about 50 something percent, actually, like about closer to 60-70% damage. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I don't care. This is just for explanation. It's just so you guys get the rough idea. Okay? Now the next thing. These need duration. You need to build these characters with duration. Up here, duration, if you want these to last long and be impactful and actually be like, oh, this is better, you need to build these characters all with duration. You're going to want both duration weapons fully maxed out, and you're going to want about 300 duration. Okay? Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Marge plus Truffle is about 320k. So the 10% damage from Marge, and the Truffle, that was 275k, is about 320k. So it's about 320k. You get about 30k extra damage from the how damage percent calculates with attack percent. So that's good. But the thing about it is, with the pyro set, right? With the pyro set, we get a lot of attack. Okay? So, with pyro characters like Lynn, currently in the game, all of your demon wedges give you a lot of attack. All of them. I took this off for consistency when testing. I just want to put it on so I don't forget. All of you, these demon wedges give you attack. So for wind characters at the current state of the game, I will test this out for Psyche in the future so we can figure out which one's the most damage. But for Lynn right now, we are doing this. Okay? For Lynn, and all of this, skill damage is better than attack. Okay? Because we have so much attack in the kit, everything in this game gives us attack. Right? Every part of the kit is attack, skill efficiency. There are no ways to get skill damage. Versus if we go to Psyche, and we go here, everything gives you skill damage or resolve. And these are like these are like modifiers that modify off the attack stat. So this is a different calculation. So with her, how you optimize her with her supports can be different. You can want to build more attack, you could want to build more resolve. Regardless, her best slot for one is Truffle. If you want to know, if you care about Psyche, regardless, you want Truffle. The other support probably is Daphne because of crit chance. I'm just going to say that right now. And crit chance is really good on Psyche. That's a quick little thing on Psyche. Now the next thing. The MC weapon does not affect laceration. That means if you want to do maximum damage, maximum skill damage, maximum E proc damage, maximum that, and you do not care about your Q damage, I do not know if this is more DPS because the weapon damage from Q could be different and how that affects with attack speed and all of that nonsense. Okay, but when we get more access to multi-shot, the E damage is going to be more important anyway. But for now, we don't have more access to multi-shot, so the MC weapon does not affect laceration. So if you are using C1 Lynn, C's whatever Lynn, that's not C6, if you want to proc those lacerations good and fast, and kill bosses fast, right, you are going to want to use Truffle and Filbert, Marge, Tabitha, any one of these skill damage bonus characters. Okay? You can also use HELLFIRE. Here is what I'm going to explain about HELLFIRE. This is what I tested. This is all going to be an unlisted video. It's going to be like an hour long. So if you want the long video and you want to see me do everything, the boring stuff for you, you can do that and leave a like. It'll be unlisted in the description. Same with this whole, like, my writing out, my notes that I have right here. Those are all going to be right there. So you can have like a little quick thing if you want to understand stuff in the future. All right. I got Intron 1 with Hellfire, right? Intron 1 with Hellfire is 30% damage dealt. This 31% damage dealt is increases damage dealt to enemies within a 6-meter radius around Hellfire. This does not work. I was hitting around 20k, I was hitting around 20k. Whereas if I get the 35%, I tested using the 30% damage from here. So I went from 20k to about 29k with this. Damage dealt is like multiplicative, so it's like at the end. So it's really good. So 35% from this one I tested. That's how I got that. It's about the same, so you just use a full HP enemy that's max level, you test it. And then I did that, and then I tested it, and I went close, and I went far, and I tested it, and it was the same damage. So this does not work. This might just work with Hellfire, so that means it is misworded. C1 Hellfire is misworded. That is something that you need to know. This probably works for her. It does not probably work for thing. I can't test it. We can probably test it. I don't know. I didn't want to test it. I don't want to equip Hellfire. This video is all about Lynn. So, and what supports. Okay. And yeah, that was everything. MC weapon does not affect the laceration. Yeah. So yeah, so basically, long story short, you can use Lynn. Your supports for Lynn. You can use MC if you want to up the Q damage. It's good for the Q damage. If you don't have, if you're trying to proc the laceration for a boss, it's not gonna help you clear the boss in endgame faster because you need multi-shot, and getting a lot of multi-shot, it's just not as much. It could be more DPS, but it really depends. It's iffy. That 50%, that's more of a question. But if you're dying from the boss or something, or if there's enemies that you want to kill that are higher level and higher level content, and you want to grind higher level content, the E damage to get the procs is gonna be better. Okay. So you can use her, just know she's not gonna increase your laceration damage. And this crit rate does not affect your laceration. Your laceration does not crit because it is skill damage. Okay. Hellfire, the attack boost works. The damage boost works, but the problem with the damage boost is the damage boost is really, really quick. You need to build a lot of duration on her in order to make her work. A lot of duration. Okay. So that's one thing. And the damage boost is applied to the enemies and not to you. So it's a lot harder as well. Truffle and Filbert is your best support. 75% damage, the most consistent damage. Build her with duration. Try to get 300, you'll get 15%. Marge. Marge is good. Tabthe is good, but Tabthe, you need to get a lot of duration. Once you get 300% duration, then she'll be consistent. And I don't think you need range for her, so you can use the duration at the cost of range rune if you want. I'm pretty sure. And I think the same with Truffle and Filbert. So these, I think you can just build full duration and just go off because I don't think the range matters. So we might get a follow up on that. And lastly, her, if you have C1, this will help. This is damage dealt. Damage dealt is good. She gives crit rate. So if you have C1 on her, you could probably run C1 on her over like running Marge, or if you don't have Tabthe, you could do that because I think the 10% damage dealt when you have all the base attacks from like the pyro and stuff and all the random attack buffs you get in the game, it'll probably be better because the damage dealt will work with your skill damage boosts. So if you want to do that, she's not that bad either. And if you're building her for Psyche, then you could just use the same two supports. Anyway, she heals. It's nice. It'll keep your morale all the way up because you'll always be full HP. So that's nice. And yeah, that's my guide on damage. All my notes are going to be in the description. Unlisted video is going to be in the description. So you can, yeah. Anyone that commented something dumb in my video, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid.